Morocco has to be the most amazing country we have visited, and this is how we spent 3 months exploring every nook and cranny from the Algerian border to the Atlantic coast in our camp.
The idea to go to Morocco was initially all about extending our overall trip due to the 3-month Brexit limit in Europe. We thought perhaps we would spend a couple of months on the coast and be beach bums. However, as we looked further into Morocco, we realised there was so much to see and do in this diverse and beautiful country. There was no sensible route to go to all the places we wanted to see, so we just accepted that our route would be wiggly. At least fuel was cheaper here, and the country turned out to be great for van life. Unfortunately, it is illegal to bring a drone into Morocco, so we had to leave it behind in Europe. After clearing border procedures, including having the van x-rayed, it was such a relief to be finally in Morocco. We headed straight to the beautiful blue town of Chefchaouen. It was easy striking distance from Tangier port and had a campsite where we could relax with the resident cats, find our feet and roughly plan our onward journey. Chefchaouen took on its distinctive colour in the 15th century when an influx of Jews brought with them a tradition of painting buildings blue. It is said the colour mirrored the sky and reminded them of God. Today the town is a tourist hotspot with local crafts on sale in the steep and narrow labyrinth of streets. We could not resist venturing on a cheeky bike ride high above the town. However, we felt uneasy going too far for fear of being hassled by the many hashish sellers in the Rift Mountains area. This was brought home when we saw women carrying the morning crop of cannabis down the hill. From Chefchaouen we headed south, choosing to go off the beaten track on the first of many broken roads and braved our first wild camp by a lake. The locals even came down to welcome us and show us the best place to park. Although we always prefer to visit natural areas rather than cities, we were both keen to experience the hustle and bustle of Fez, which was next en route. Fez is the oldest of Morocco's imperial cities and is now a UNESCO World Heritage Site. It is famous for its Medina, a maze of narrow streets with crafts and produce on sale, as well as the stinky tanneries where leather is made, dyed and treated. After the heat of Fez, it was such a relief to gain altitude and head to the relative cool of Ifrane National Park in the Middle Atlas Mountains. Staying on a beautiful little campsite amongst the cherry trees provided a great place to explore the area. We did some bike rides through the ancient cedar trees, which the park is famous for, as well as its wild monkeys. Continuing our exploration of the Middle Atlas, we headed to Tazika National Park. The park was beautiful and quiet. We explored it on bike and foot, often only meeting friendly shepherds on the way. On one walk to a small summit, we were accompanied by a number of stray dogs from the village. Morocco has many stray dogs as they are generally not kept as pets. We found them to be calm and friendly, and they would often sit around our van as though guarding it. We felt they just needed a bit of love. By now we were really getting into our Moroccan adventure and had fallen in love with its landscapes and people. However, there was one thing we needed to do before we could really relax. In order to stay out of the Schengen zone long enough to be able to return to it for another 3 months, we needed just 2 more days in Morocco than the permitted 90 days. To achieve this, we could either apply for a residency permit or we could exit and re-enter Morocco to reset our 90 days. We decided to leave and re-enter Morocco by crossing the border into the Spanish enclave of Melilla. This had no certain outcome. We faced a double border crossing where there were many migrants desperate to get into Europe. It was a slightly stressful experience. The van broke down in the border queue, migrants tried to get into the van, and we both came down with a vicious stomach bug. It was not fun both being ill in the van. However, it was all worth it. We had successfully extended our stay in Morocco and could now relax and get on with our adventure.
After several days of recovery on an empty campsite, with the exception of the resident cats, we were re-energised and now really ready to explore Morocco. We climbed high onto the Reckon Plateau, enjoying a stunning wild camp with 360-degree views before heading to the far southeast of the country. I've driven across Morocco in a 4x4 some 20 years ago and will never forget the dramatic big landscape views and wanted to experience some of that again. The best way to experience this was to get off the beaten track, only this time I was in a two-wheel drive van weighing well over 3 tonne. From previous experience, I knew the terrain was unforgiving, particularly on the vehicle suspension, which is why I spent so much time preparing the van in advance. Sand was not my biggest concern, but having suitable ground clearance and tyres tough enough for the constant pummelling certainly paid for themselves, as we took the van where no van should go. On our route south, we made the effort to keep active with some exploration bike rides and of course our daily Pilates session. Our destination was the town of Figig, right on the Algerian border, which looked like something out of a Star Wars set. It felt like a Land's End destination, as there's not a lot there other than saying you'd been there. Although it was home to very large ruins of a fortified village, which of course we explored on the bikes.
Driving along the Ziz Gorge, we headed to Mezouga. Mezouga is famous for its position next to the impressive Erg Chebi sand dunes, and we were able to camp right next to them. This was perfect for an evening explore, but as we found, hiking up a dune is a hard workout. Our efforts were rewarded by the changing sunset colours from the top. The dunes are now a bit of a playground for motocross and 4x4 sports. However, it was still possible to find a bit of solitude on a camel ride, another tick off our trip list. After the tourist hotspot of Mezouga, we were keen to get off the beaten track again. Using Chris Scott's Overland book, we devised a route taking us up into the high Atlas Mountains via some dramatic gorges and remote villages, wild camping along the way. The app Wikiloc helped us find some bike routes to explore further and get to areas the van could not. Despite Morocco's growing tourism, parking up in a van in a remote village and getting bikes out still draws a crowd. Although inquisitive, the villagers were always friendly. In one village, a lady even welcomed us with some delicious homemade bread. Back on the tourist trail, we camped at a beautiful gîte so we could begin a tour around Morocco's more famous gorges, the Todra and the Dades Gorge. We decided to explore the entire length of the Todra Gorge by bike. From the gîte, this was a 37k downhill route and we hoped to get a taxi back up. Even the best laid plans, however, can't predict a washed out road, but we eventually found our way. We made an early freezing cold descent down the gorge as it is best seen in the morning sun. On exiting the gorge, the route took us directly through the palm groves via a maze of single tracks. These palm groves, oases, are scattered around southern Morocco. They provide havens for wildlife and people due to the presence of water and the shade from the date palms. It was fascinating to see all the crops being grown and harvested, particularly the dates, which soon became a part of our staple diet.
vamos en el Buribir. Sí, no me calo, porque no hay gente que Buribir. Sabes, la gente que vamos intenta tushinaite.
Following some negotiation on the taxi fare, we had a white-knuckle ride back up the gorge and later enjoyed a freshly cooked tagine. The next stage of the tour took us back up into the High Atlas, following a scenic drive over a high pass at over 2,600 metres. We passed more remote villages, although even here it was possible to get a decent coffee, as was the case in all of Morocco.
We made a wild camp at a stunning spot next to a lake above the small bustling town of Imilchil. This was a great place for several days. Here we could chill out, do some biking and hiking and enjoy beautiful starlit nights around a campfire.
One of our rides took us past another lake and up over a steep pass following a mule track that the locals used to get to market. Some of the locals were bemused to see us cycling up. Our descent took us over multicoloured terrain down to a village. The village appeared to blend into the landscape, as many Moroccan villages do, being built from the surrounding earth.
Oh shit! Right on the bit, exposed bit.
From Imilchil we headed south to continue our gorge tour. We were unsure what the road to Dade's Gorge would be like, but we were told it was passable by van. Of course, the tarmac abruptly ended at the highest and most exposed point of the road at an altitude of nearly 3,000 metres, certainly the highest the van had been. After driving praying not to meet any oncoming vehicles, we decided to wild camp off the track on a beautiful spot overlooking the Grand Canyon-like gorge. It was freezing at night due to the altitude, but the starlit sky was mesmerising. Continuing our slow drive down the full length of the gorge, we eventually hit the main tourist spot. This is a famous section of hairpins where we were told that Top Gear had been filming a few days prior. Matt couldn't resist a bit more off-roading and found us a unique camping spot on a dried up riverbed. All good unless it rains.
Continuing our tour of the Dades, we parked up outside of Berberkaf. The deal was free overnight parking if you had a meal. Fine by us. We ordered our tagine for the evening and headed off on an epic bike ride to the Valley of the Roses, another beautiful oasis in the otherwise arid landscape.
Again, using the app Wikiloc, we found a hike through some ravines and bizarre rock formations known as the Monkey Rocks. Definitely one of the more unique hikes we have been on, as we had to climb over and under the rocks, even on our hands and knees at some point. This was certainly no place to get lost.
We were only halfway through our Moroccan adventure with the best yet to come, which included summiting North Africa's highest mountain and hitting the surf scene on the Atlantic coast.